All right. So Conexiones magazine or journal, it's like I had mentioned, it is officially a publication of the Ministry of Public Education in Costa Rica, but they are excited to not only share what Costa Rica has to offer with the whole region of the Americas, but also in this case to specifically feature the project teams and teacher fellows and other supporters of the I-10 network. And so they will be having a special edition in February of next year, specifically for I-10, which I'm very, very excited about. It's a very good partnership. I'm just very excited to collaborate with all of you and also specifically with Conexiones. So I know February seems like it's very far away from now, but the reality is that writing an article takes some effort and it takes some time. And because this is a publication of quality, they use a process of reviewing. And so I'm going to share with you this process, what it looks like to write an article, what an article looks like before it gets published, how it gets reviewed, and then we can talk a little bit about where to begin. So Conexiones, if you've had a chance to take a look at the article or at the link that was sent in the bulletin or in the bulletin, the newsletter, there is a specific call, which I will share with you in a moment. But basically, we're looking for articles that focus on STEM and teacher education combined. So STEM teacher education. But that can include things like classroom practices that other teachers could use. It could include programs that ministries or organizations have started in order to support STEM teachers. It could also include perhaps ideas about policies that support STEM teachers. But the important thing is that it needs to have the possibility of regional impact, in the sense that even though everybody has their own specific context, we should try to think beyond our own classrooms or beyond our own countries in order to think about how we might influence people all around the Americas. So just some important formatting things are that you must use Arial 12 font and 1.5 spacing. We suggest that you use either a Google Doc or a Word file to start your work. And we're looking for articles that are somewhere between 6 to 10 pages. So that it's about 2,000, maybe a little bit more than 2,000 words. So it can be, you know, of variable length. And you can also include photographs as well. One of the things that we do need in addition to an article is an abstract. Now, like I said, this will be published fully in English and fully in Spanish. So as native English speakers, you will write your narrative and you would write your abstract in English, and then we would support you in translating it into Spanish. Well, we would do the translation unless you want to learn some Spanish as we help. So we'll do it. It also requires keywords. And then we also use the APA format, the American Psychological Association. And if you're not familiar with that, that's a standard academic formatting. This is something we can help with, so please don't be too worried about that, although you've probably seen it at university.
Rebecca, are we using the 6th edition or 7th edition of APA?
Great question. María del Pilar, ¿usan la sexta o séptima edición de APA? Porque sí es un poco distinto.
Sexta.
Sixth. We're using the
Porque
sixth.
todavía no se ha traducido al español, entonces todavía no lo estamos aplicando.
Okay. So they're saying that APA 7th edition has not yet been translated into Spanish, so that's why they're using the 6th edition. Okay. So I'd like to give you an example of what a special edition looks like. So typically, the Conexiones journal has articles about a wide variety of different things, and occasionally they have thematic editions. And so this is just one example of a thematic edition that was focused on library education, which is actually Maria del Pilar's specialty. So I'm sure she was involved in this somehow. So the article is digital, but the journal is digital. Again, there'll be one in English, there will be one in Spanish, but I-10 will be printing a limited number of these so that every author can have at least a few copies, and any institution that might be involved or, you know, that the authors belong to can also have some to share. So we'll also be producing it in a hard copy. So basically this journal, Laura and I will be working on an editorial that will describe generally what I-10 is and why international collaboration for STEM teacher education is important. So we'll lay the groundwork, but it's important to keep in mind that the actual readers of this journal could be teachers from preschool all the way up through high school or beyond. They could be administrators in schools, they could be policymakers. And so it's really important to keep in mind that not everybody understands what STEM is, and not everybody understands what we mean by teacher education. So please just do keep that in mind. And then every article has an abstract. Currently, they do include abstracts in English and in Spanish, even though the whole narrative is only in Spanish. And as you can see, I know this is in Spanish, but basically one of the things that Jorge, one of the editors, was saying is write simply. Write as simply as you possibly can, not only because there are many, many different people who will be reading these articles, but because it actually makes for a better article. The clearer you are, the more enjoyable it is to read. So don't try to become all crazy academic. This is a practitioner journal. And so it's meant to be something that somebody can pick up and then can use in their own classroom or can use in their own education context. In this particular case, they're mostly icons, but there are articles that will include photographs of people. Just please keep in mind that if you're taking any photographs involving children, that you must have the permission, not just of the children, but also of their parents or their guardians. And that's only if you can see the children's faces. If there are no faces, it's not something to worry about. And then the articles do have some references. So again, it's not like you're writing a term paper, but you do want to have some reference to modern educational research or some kind of a framing for why the practice that you identify or the program that you identify is really grounded in good practice or in good education research. So if you just Google, honestly, Conexiones, or if you use the link in the call for proposals for articles, there's a link to Conexiones and you can scroll through it. And I think even if you don't understand Spanish, it will make sense as to, you'll get a good feel for the kinds of things that are in the journal and what people write about. So in this particular article right here, this is very much a programmatic description from what I can tell here. And it's probably a little bit more like the kinds of things that many of us might publish. So there's just a few more. So one thing that I like to remind people is don't be selfish. It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful opportunity to publish, but I think it's a wonderful, when you have great ideas, they should not go unshared. Right? And so this is an opportunity for you to share what you know with the rest of the region. Okay, so taking you to the end, that's basically what it's basically what the whole thing will look like. Okay, click out of that. All right. Let's see here. Were you all able to see it? Just want to make sure. Yes? Could I have somebody respond? I want to make sure, was everybody able to see the journal?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes,
All right, thank you. Okay, just wanted to make sure. I wasn't sure if it was sharing the PowerPoint still. Okay, so that's the journal. So there's really 4 big steps or 4 elements in terms of this process of writing an article. If you've already written an article before, then this is probably not new to you. But if you've never written it, really even though we have a deadline of August 1st, which you probably saw in the call for proposals, that is not when you should start working. That's really pretty much the end of your writing process. And so, of course, this is all voluntary. This is not a requirement for being part of the I-10 community. But basically, if you are interested in writing an article for this journal, we strongly encourage that within the next month or so that you start letting us know and letting your colleagues know what you're interested in writing about so you can get some support from us. So the first step would be to write an article and send it via the link that I-10 provides. So I will show you what that is going to look like and what that submission process looks like. But really, even before that, make sure that we're aware of what you're interested in writing. This journal only can have about 7 or 8 articles, so it can't have every single person's individual set of articles. I know Conexiones would probably love to receive additional contributions, but within this particular specific edition, we can't have everybody published just because it's not possible. It's a lot of work. And so if the sooner you let us know what you're interested in publishing, the more likely we can help you. The greater likelihood that we can help you to have a quality manuscript ready to go by August 1st. The second step in this process is that there will be a review of these articles. So we'll be accepting both English and Spanish articles. We will, the OAS will review them to make sure that they meet all of the guidelines in terms of all of the formatting. And then the third step is they are sent for review. And what we mean by that is we use a double-blinded review process, so standard peer review. There will be 2 or 3 individuals outside of I-10 who are experts in STEM education who will be reading the articles in English or in Spanish, whatever their native language is, and they will be using a rubric to assess its quality and its clarity, and then they will provide feedback to you as the author. Neither you won't know who the reviewers are, and the reviewers won't know who you are, to avoid any bias in that process. And then the fourth step is to make sure that we get any necessary changes, and that there's lots of communication that goes back and forth once an article is accepted for publication, basically. The other thing I would say is that you do not need to publish alone. In fact, we strongly encourage people to work collaboratively on articles because it shows strength. I think some people sometimes think, oh, it'd be great if I could have my own article only with my name on it. But what we're trying to emphasize here is the power of collaboration and the power of networks. So don't be afraid to collaborate with your project team or to collaborate with a group of people who you might share something with, perhaps a group of teachers or a group of university teacher educators, for example. All of those combinations are fine. So what should the article look like before sending it? Let me go ahead and show you what that needs to look like. So this is an article that is currently a work in progress. And so there's a title, although I've been told don't worry too much about the title, they will help you with that. You have the author's name, and then you have some kind of a summary. This is a summary right here. We also ask for some keywords, which is helpful for search engines and things like that. And then there's also an abstract in English, so English and in Spanish. Don't worry, just do the one abstract in your own language. We'll support you with the other one. And then here we are with the actual manuscript itself. And again, I do know this is in Spanish, but at least I want you to see, we're talking about a very simple Google Doc or a Word document, 1.5 spacing, Arial 12 font, and you tell your story. And some people have asked, like, is there a particular order that things need to go in? And the reality is this is not like a lab report, which might have very explicit pieces to it. It's going to depend upon how you want to tell your story. So in some cases, I've seen stories where they start off with, you know, a description of some kind of an event and then talk about how that event unfolded over time. Or maybe what was the theoretical foundation for that lesson plan or for building that program. And then they might talk about the impacts or future plans in their conclusion. So in this case, it looks like, let's see here, this has poetry in it. I mean, it probably had some pictures that came with it. And the point is that it really depends upon whatever story you're trying to tell. And then at the end of the article, we have references, again, in APA format. And if you're not sure how to do that, and if you're not sure what references you need in yours, maybe you're like a teacher who's working on sharing some kind of a good practice. If you need help finding literature that supports the work that you're doing, this is something that we can also help with, or we can direct you to the right place to look. So that's what it should look like. And almost done here. Yes, basically Conexiones, I know, is very excited because this is an opportunity for them to really internationalize their journal while at the same time honoring the people who are authoring these articles. So we're looking forward to it being a 5-star edition. The last thing I want to do before we open it up for questions is I'd like to share with you what the proposal actually looks like. And for that, I am going to go back to my desktop. Where did it go? One moment, folks. Goodness gracious. Okay. So many of you, I hope, had a chance to take a look at this. This was linked in the newsletter that went out. I'll share the link in the chat briefly. But basically, important things to know is that August 1st is the absolute deadline for getting these manuscripts submitted. So the work that if you want to submit an article for consideration, then you want to start it within the next month or so, I would say, depending upon your own timeline. But basically, we're looking for practices in STEM teaching or in STEM education leadership, programs related to STEM education. It could be at the regional, national, local level, policies related to STEM education, and examples of how these things got developed as a result of regional collaboration. You don't have to do all of these things, but these are the things that we want to prioritize because we want to show people what the region's doing and how they're doing it together. And something to consider that we're looking for as you think about what stories you might want to tell is we're looking for international replicability. I think I mentioned that before. We want to make sure that it's not just, oh, here's my context and this is what I'm doing, but here's how you can do it too. Or if you can't take all of my ideas, here are some of the most critical elements that you might replicate. Again, we want to emphasize the power of collaboration. So again, you can submit as individuals, but we strongly encourage you to think about working with other people on an article. And then of course you can submit in English or in Spanish if you have a preference. Then there's a form that must be completed by August 1st. It's a bilingual form. Basically, we need the name of the principal author, that's the person we would communicate with, the country, email address, just basic contact information. We would need an article abstract, and then you actually submit the article. And for that, we are happy to accept either a Google Doc link or an editable Word doc. So either one is fine, but if you are sharing back and forth, like with I-10 or with Conexiones, I actually think Google Docs are the best way to go so that we can give real-time feedback and not lose version control. I guess it depends upon what your goal is. I love Google Docs, so that's what I recommend, at least at the initial stages. And then the last thing that I think is very important, I know nobody ever, hopefully nobody ever intends to plagiarize, but we want to make sure that this is an original work and that it's also something that not only has somebody else not written, but we also want to make sure that it's not something you've previously published. So please make sure that it is a completely new article, because there is a software that the journal and many other journals use in order to professionally check to see if there's anything unusual. So just make sure it's original and you'll be fine. So all of the information is here, some guidelines. I guess one of the things I would say is the first thing that I would say you should do is take some time to review previous editions of Conexiones. Even though you don't speak, if you may not speak Spanish, you will definitely get a sense of who they're writing for based upon the pictures that you see, the length of the articles, etc. And then as you prepare to write an article, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us. Frankly, because sometimes articles start with a conversation. You might have you certainly have wonderful ideas to share, but sometimes it's hard to organize those ideas unless you talk them out with somebody. So if you ever want to just call me up or call up, Pilar Suarez, if you want to call Allison or call Patricia, most of us are very happy to take some time to listen to your ideas and to help you think about what your storyline might be and to help you create an outline before you start writing. Some people, in my case, I like to write around pictures. So I often take critical, like pictures of critical moments in my story, and then I write around that. So it depends upon what you're trying to accomplish. Then you prepare your article, and the best way to start writing an article is just to write it. Don't be afraid of making mistakes, and do not be a perfectionist. That's not helpful at the beginning of writing an article. And then if you do want to include any images, please just make sure that they are high quality, because we don't want any blurry pictures on the journal for sure. And then, as I mentioned, there is a peer review double-blind process that would be happening later after August this year. And they will use those people who will be doing the reviews will be using this rubric. It's a very simple rubric. And basically they will be making a recommendation about, perhaps there's some small things that might need to be changed, or perhaps it needs some additional evidence, or something needs to be clarified, and then they will give feedback. But basically, I would expect that, if you've been in touch with us and have been in touch with the editors at Conexiones, depending upon your level of comfort with Spanish or whatnot, we'll all be communicating with each other. We really hope that by the time August 1st comes around, that we all feel really comfortable with where the article is in its development stage, that hopefully there won't be any difficulties at the point of peer review. So that is the process. And I think I've covered everything. Let's see if Maria del Pilar or Jorge or Laura, me faltó algo? Was anything missing?
No, I think you did very well, actually. Yeah, all the information is there.
Yeah, it's public information, absolutely.
It's very clear. So I just invite all you to write in Conexiones. It's a great opportunity to share with all the region what are you doing in your country, in your class, in all that, and you are an expert. So we want to know what are you doing.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Good. Okay. So with that, now is the time if you have any questions, and I am trying to promote everybody who is an attendee up to panelists so that they can get on camera if they want to, and also get on audio if they have questions. I would just say, as we're waiting for any questions here, there's two things that prevent people from writing. Number one, the first thing that prevents people from writing is people think they don't have any ideas. You absolutely have ideas. The fact that you're participating in I-10 means that you have ideas that are important and valuable to share. And then the second thing that stops people from writing is fear. People think that their ideas are not good enough, or that their ideas will be rejected. And that's not what we're here for. We're here to support, and we're here to support you as a writer and as a professional STEM educator as well. So let's see, any questions? Okay, so let's see here. Let me go ahead and post. I see somebody's asking for me to share the link in the chat. I will do that. It's also in the newsletter. I'll paste it here.
Yes, Rebecca, because we will be interested in publishing an article, because I was reading that there is an opportunity to share the collaboration that we are going to have, like people from Panama, from Guatemala, and Venezuela. So that would be interesting that we can share what we are doing and what we have been doing during our Humphrey program. And as my friend Laura said, that this would be a very good opportunity to spread, to let people know, to disseminate what we are doing across the region. So that would be amazing.
Great. All right. Any questions from anyone? Thoughts, reflections, or concerns? And if you want to participate, you can either just open up your microphone and speak, or if you wanted to raise your hand and I call on you, that's okay. And yes, there will be a recording of the webinar that will be shared. Conray, you have a question or comment?
No, I don't.
No, you don't. Okay, you unmuted yourself, I think. or I don't know what happened. Does anybody have any thoughts about what anybody else have thoughts about what they might like to publish? No? Okay. Okay. The last thing that I will share is some people have asked if additional individuals may join and publish. So just to be clear, these publications are limited to project teams and teacher fellows who might not also be on project teams, but anybody who's officially part of the I-10 network. If there are additional collaborators who are supporting that work, then they're welcome to be co-authors as well. But the actual proposals do need to come from people who are officially in project teams or who are teacher fellows who may or may not be part of project teams. Okay. All right, we have a lot of people, but no questions. So I'm a little surprised, but that's okay. We're all just gathering information right now.
The presentation was very clear. All they are going to write, so.
No worries, no worries. Okay. Well, let's see. Does anybody have anything else to add from, let's see, Maria del Pilar or Jorge or Laura? Any final words from you? Uh-huh.
Question at the section when you were explaining about Tenet went and came back. Could you just run over that for me quickly, please?
Can you repeat that question one more time, please? You're a little soft.
You were discussing about the proposal.
Yes.
Yes. Could you just go over that section for me, please? Because my internet went.
Oh, that's okay. So the link is actually it's in the chat box now. So there's a Google form that you need to fill out, but basically what it requires, and that's by August 1st, but you need to have the name of the authors, the abstract, and the narrative. Those are the only things that you really need to have. But I was just emphasizing, don't start this process, at the end of July. Start the process over the next month or even the next few weeks, because we would like to support you as much as possible to help him, to help you massage and get it into the appropriate format before you actually submit on August 1st. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, and I know some people came in a little bit late too, so we'll be sure to send out a recording and also the slides, and then we'll also remind people of the links that we shared here today of the Conexiones links and also the link directly to the proposal. So, okay. All right, well, if there are no questions, then I just really want to thank Laura and the Conexiones team. And I want to thank all of you for having come, and I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon. Please stay healthy.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Rebecca,
Muchas
bye-bye.
gracias. Hasta luego. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
Bye-bye.